I'm going to talk a little bit more about The Glass Knight by David Hellwig. And I'm going to go back to the passage that I quoted a long excerpt from recently. And I'm going to go through it a little bit more carefully and analyze, from my point of view anyway, what I think goes well in terms of Hellwig's writing and where I think he goes wrong in terms of creating a sort of lively scene. The point that I'd like to make here is simply that when one writes about a political situation, one still needs to write good fiction. And so the question from my point of view as a reader is whether Hellwig is writing well as a novelist. And so these are my opinions, and of course people can disagree, but this is how I respond to the text when I read it. Now, a little bit before the section that I quoted earlier, Robert is with his girlfriend, Elizabeth, and they're driving in a car, they're going up to Ottawa. The passage reads, "Robert glanced across the car. Elizabeth's face was bright, beautiful. Elizabeth was in the car with me. I can feel her presence all through me. There is no explanation for this. It happened to happen." Now, this is a very sort of odd stylistic choice on Hellwig's part, because for almost the entire novel, it's written in the third person. Suddenly, he moves into the first person. And in the same paragraph, he moves between the past tense and the present tense. The present tense works better here because it's supposed to suggest stream of consciousness. It's a little bit of awkward writing, and it's a bad sign. Was this book really properly edited? Did this just slip through? Was this just sort of a goofy little passage that came through because he had written it originally in the first person? I don't know. But even if it was written differently originally in terms of person, why the switch between past tense and present tense? Elizabeth is in the car with me. I can feel her presence. That simply works better. It's a bit of sloppy writing. Now, the next paragraph reads, "Closer to Ottawa, the traffic became heavier. On the Queensway, he knew he was in a city, for the cars moved like projectiles." Okay. In downtown Ottawa, they stopped and started and crawled toward the Parliament buildings. He parked in a lot a few blocks away. An army jeep passed by as he was moving into a parking space, and the kidnappings, the political acts were suddenly brought close to him. It's an okay passage, and it does capture something of the sense of being in Ottawa when the War Measures Act was declared. I mean, suddenly the city is filled with troop carriers, with Chinooks flying overhead, Huey helicopters, soldiers at street corners holding submachine guns and so forth. But one as a reader wants a little bit more, and instead of capturing something of the feeling of the city at the time, which I remember actually, Hellwig moves very quickly to the next scene and sort of these deep thoughts that he's having about politics without really evoking something tangible or resonant as a scene within the piece of writing. Now, the last section that I'd like to quote in this particular episode of A Big, Big, Big Books World is the following. I'll move on to a few other examples after this. There's a passage that I read earlier about the Parliament buildings. The human ordinariness, the dirty jokes among the speechwriters in the press club, the venality and bickering were there, but there was something else there as well. The buildings embodied a human adventure. The soldiers in the streets provoked this knowledge. There was danger in how men cared about their lives. Robert felt a kind of awe in the face of this. So again, we're confronted with Hellwig's obvious intelligence as a human being, but not his giftedness as a writer. This is this is almost a pompous passage. And again, there's a failure here to really create a sense of place, to create a sense of drama, to create a sense of being somewhere that's sort of tangible and lived in.